Welcome to Yoga Today. It's wonderful to have you with us. We've been talking the last couple of weeks about the meeting of physics and spirituality. This idea that we build boundaries, we as human beings create boundaries, that's how we perceive the world is through boundaries, but that it's not real. And the physicists have been talking about that for quite a long time now. And so we're just sharing some of the beautiful things that they have to say that yogis would say is wonderful for us, for the mind to consider. It opens your mind, expands your ability to see and to realize what the truth is. So this is from one of the physicists, his name is Wittgenstein. At the basis of the whole modern view of the world is the illusion that so-called laws of nature explain natural phenomena. So as much as scientists know, here's one who's saying, we know nothing. These laws don't describe reality. They describe our boundaries of reality. And Yogananda said that it's a wise man reaches the limits of the mind within a 24-hour period. That if we were honest and really considered what the mind has to offer, we would recognize its limitation. That the mind is not the place to go for the answers. So what we once thought to be bounded things. So, we know that. You can see there's this bookcase behind me, there's the chair, there's the door. We think of them as being concrete things. We have a word for it, we call them things. And we have this idea that they are concrete and real. And so he says, we once thought things were bounded, and what we found out now, they turned out to be interwoven aspects of each other. This isn't psychology, this isn't spirituality, this is physics. What we thought were different things are actually interwoven aspects of each other. We are interwoven aspects of each other. It gives a whole different perspective to life and to the world. I mean, what a magnificent realization it would be to know that we are all truly interconnected, even more than connected, interwoven is a beautiful word for it. So you can see that physicists are beginning to catch glimpses beyond the mind of what the real world is. And he says, which, it's kind of like, to me, it's where physics meets poetry. And he said, we are catching a glimpse of the real world, a seamless coat of no boundary. Seamless coat of no boundary. Not the classified, bounded, mapped out, meta-mapped out world that we live in. That we've created. We're the ones who made the boundaries. We're the ones that made the lists and drew up the classifications. And so this is, again, another physicist, Capra. He says, when the world is seen to be void of boundaries, all things and events are seen to be mutually dependent or interpenetrating. That's that interwoven idea. Just as pleasure is related to pain, good to evil, life to death, so all things are related to what they are not. Duality is an illusion caused by boundaries. Isn't that something? The idea of us and them, of you and I, that these are dualities created by boundaries. It's a very high and a very spiritual reality of our interconnectedness. And so then we've been looking at the book No Boundary by Ken Wilber, and he is now at the point where he's moving from physics into looking at what the Eastern traditions and the Western mystical traditions, any enlightenment path. He says the sole aim of these paths is to deliver people from the conflicts and complexities of their battles by delivering us from our boundaries, the boundaries that created those battles. You know, our battles in life are with boundaries created by man. They're not real. And he says something that I think is really powerful. The battle is not won, it is dissolved. You don't win the battle, it disappears before you. When you see it as two people, two countries, two races, two religions, standing at their boundary, ready to fight, to say, my boundary is real, mine is the true boundary. And yet, like it or not, that boundary is not there. We are actually interwoven. So to know that reality, to know it as no boundary, discloses all conflicts as being an illusion. And it leads the devotee, the seeker, to unity consciousness. You know, it's the different definitions in different traditions, but we're talking about unity consciousness, nirvana, liberation, enlightenment, satori, moksha. Each tradition has its word for this. The boundaries are gone. And I mentioned last week that somebody was asking Little Crow, who is a Lakota Sioux holy man, you know, what do you think about the different religions? How do they get on with one another and things like that? And he said, I think if you put all of the followers in a room together, there'll be mayhem. But if you put the founders of those religions together, the great ones, there would be silence. Because between them is the knowledge of no boundary. So what could you be arguing about or even discussing? No boundaries. But in all the great religions, the great traditions, we have this idea of the opposites, and that somewhere beyond sin is God, somewhere beyond this good and bad, saint and sinner, birth and death, self and not self. You know, and it's this one. This is the first boundary we make. And, you know, they say that one of the things that's, you know, that for babies, they see no boundary between them and their mother when they're born. Let's face it, you know, they grew inside, they were as one. And now they come out and they're still as one. And it's a whole part of growing up for a baby to separate and to see even its mother as other. As our egos become more solidified, more and more people and more things are put outside our boundary and become other. This is me, that's you. This is my top, not yours. You know, this is what I believe, not what you believe. You know, so this idea of there being a difference, that we are somehow separate, and yet we all know we are at our most wonderful when we feel that we are connected. You know, you've probably all had that experience of you meet somebody, a new person to you in your life, and you talk to them and you realize, oh my goodness, this person just, I feel so close to them. I feel like I know them. And we have that sense of our connected and interwovenness. And we notice it more with some people than others, but still, that's us. We're the one drawing the boundary. Oh, you're more like me. Well, you're more selfie than this person over here. Draw your boundaries far, draw them near. And so yogis would say the same thing. This is the first one we draw, the first boundary. And it's our most cherished. We spend years setting it up and more years defending it. And the last thing we relinquish as old age leads us into death is this attachment to this self, this unique individual self, separate from the whole. So yogis would say that since all of this sense of separation starts out at this level, it starts with us making this distinction, not me, not me, not me. That's not me, that's not me. This is me. So if we can see through that one, we can see through them all. How amazing. You know, when you think about it, to tackle each boundary that you've set up in your life it would take you lifetimes. All of the things that you say you're not, that live on the other side of your boundary, to take each one and carefully unpick it. You know, people who think that, somebody was telling me they had done an ancestry test, a DNA test, and they said, oh, I always thought we were Swedish, but we were Danish. So all of that time, standing proud of being Swedish, proud of your ancestry, and then found out not true. Turns out that's not true. So that's one teeny tiny little, this is a boundary that I made that doesn't work. It's not a real boundary. It's not the truth. It's not who I am. And so if you think that the boundaries that you've set up that make you, to unpick each one of them is so hard. And so one of the best things that we can do on the path is to look at this causal boundary, the boundary that the first distinction, not between good and bad, not between joy and sorrow, not between old and young, but between me and not me. So what a powerful spiritual truth. So let's meditate together. And really, you can do it in two ways. We'll do one which is the sort of which is a more of a Gyani practice. And what we're going to do, if you feel like the quest of your life is knowledge, to be able to truly understand the world, yourself, your place in it, what spirituality is. If you yearn to know, then do this practice. So what we're going to do is to sit and feel that everything that is happening, every sound you hear, is happening inside you. It's not outside you, it's inside. If you're a person who, more than knowledge, seeks for relationship, spiritually, maybe you want a deeper relationship with the Lord of your heart. And so you can do it slightly differently and have that sense that everyone is your own. No one is a stranger. He who resides in this heart resides in that heart. So pick whichever one you feel suits your nature the best. You can try both, but give it a fair chance. Spend some time with it. So sitting comfortably, spine straight. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then either sensing that everything that happens in the whole universe is happening within your being. Or that the Lord who resides in your heart resides in all hearts. And now inviting any insight, any new understanding from your meditation to become part of your life, new perspective. As you bring that insight down through the whole of your being, through your intuition, your mind and emotions, into your life force, the breath, and into your physical body. As you tense and relax your arms and legs, and then just tilting your body from side to side. And gently dropping your chin to your chest. If you have any neck problems, just moving your head gently from one side to the other. Or if you have no neck problems, just rotating your head first in one direction and then in the opposite direction. And then just pausing, sense yourself as a whole being, a whole person, body, mind, and spirit in harmony. And gently opening your eyes. If we could let go of our self-devised boundaries and sense ourselves as part of the whole, the Lord of my heart and your heart are the same. Namaste. A wonderful week.